board is present today for a pre-termination hearing for Ms. Melissa Temple, who has exercised her right to a hearing in front of the Board of Education in the matter of the School District of Waukesha Administration's recommendation for termination of employment. Per Wisconsin statute section 19.85, parentheses 1, parentheses B, a hearing of this nature would be held in a closed session of the board. It is my understanding that Mrs. Temple, through her attorney, has demanded that this hearing be held in open session. Counsel for Ms. Temple, can you please confirm or deny?
Confirmed,
Thank you. At this time, I will read the rules for the attendees of this special meeting. There will be no opportunity for public comment. Whether in the boardroom or in the overflow room, attendees are required to maintain decorum and minimize disruption by adhering to the following expectations. Signs, banners, and displays are prohibited. Cell phones must be silenced at all times. Verbal comments, applause, excessive noise, and audible or physical reactions to the proceedings are prohibited. While the board is in session, remain seated whenever possible. Please limit movement in and out of the boardroom. In the event of any type of disruption by attendees, including members of the media, such attendees will be removed from the boardroom or the overflow room. The board has retained the legal assistance of Attorney Mark Capocious to preside over this hearing as a representative of the Board of Education. Attorney Capocious will have the authority to facilitate the proceedings, to make determinations on questions of procedure and process, to arbitrate procedural disputes between the parties, to render judgment of redundant or irrelevant testimony or evidence, and to ensure that pre-hearing agreements of the parties are upheld in a fair and consistent manner. Attorney Capocious will also have the authority to render judgment on public participation in a hearing that may be disruptive or distracting. He may be allowed to order attendees to be removed from the boardroom and to pause the hearing in the event of an interruption or disruption. As a representative of the Board of Education, Attorney Capocious will provide legal consultation to the board in deliberation, but will not offer recommendations or render decisions in the matter before the board. Is there any board member who objects to the delegation of authority of Attorney Capocious to preside over the hearing today? Thank you. Seeing none, next I would like to remind the Board of Education of behavior agreements made prior to the commencement of today's hearing. Board members should remove technology from their desks and refrain from the use of email, text, or other forms of electronic communication with members of the public on any matters related to this hearing during the hearing and deliberation. Additionally, board members are prohibited from asking the parties questions unless such questions relate to procedural matters or clarify any evidence that is introduced. Such questions must be directed to me or Attorney Capocious and must be limited to essential inquiries. Please raise your hand if you have a question. Any questions that imply, either implicitly or explicitly, a preferential position prior to deliberation may violate the rules of this proceeding and may result in a request for the board member to recuse themselves from the proceeding. Is there any member of the board who has a question regarding these rules? Seeing none, now I will turn the proceedings over to Attorney Capocious.
Thank you, President Piasek. My name is Mark Capocious. I am an attorney with the law firm of Von Briesen and Roper. Today, my role is to assist the board in conducting a pre-termination due process hearing. This meeting will be different than traditional board meetings. This is a special meeting of the School District of Waukesha pursuant to Board Policy 0164.2. We are in open session upon the request of the employee. As mentioned earlier, this would normally be a closed session meeting pursuant to Wisconsin Statute 1985-1B, as this meeting will be considering dismissal of a public employee and taking formal action on such a matter. However, when an employee is given notice of any evidentiary hearing which may be held prior to a final action being taken, and of any meeting in which final action may be taken, the notice to the employee contains a statement that they have a right to demand that the evidentiary hearing or meeting be held in open session. Then the employee may demand that the evidentiary hearing be held in open session. As President Piasek confirmed earlier, the employee has been given notice of this right and has demanded an open meeting. Accordingly, for these reasons, this hearing is held in open session. While we are in open session, this is not a public hearing. There will not be an opportunity for public comment. The only people who will be speaking are the attorneys and their clients or representatives, the witnesses, and myself. all other policies and rules related to public attendance at board meetings apply insofar as maintaining decorum and remaining silent at all times, so as not to disrupt the hearing. These conditions were set forth earlier. Again, the purpose of today's meeting is for the board to determine if the conduct of the employee that the employee has allegedly engaged in warrants the termination of her employment. To that end, the board must determine the facts, consider the rules, directives, or policies, and conclude if termination is appropriate under the circumstances. As this is not a private non-renewal conference pursuant to Wisconsin statute section 118.22, the board must decide if the administration's recommendation of employment termination is arbitrary and capricious. The rules of evidence will be a guide for today's proceedings, but will not be strictly enforced. Witnesses will be sworn in prior to giving their testimony. A court reporter has been retained to document today's proceedings. Please speak clearly and at a reasonable pace. The process will be as follows. There will be opening statements by both sides. Next, each party will present their respective cases. This includes calling witnesses to testify and introducing any exhibits into the record. At the conclusion of both parties' cases achieved, there will be an opportunity for closing statements. Closing statements are a summary of the evidence presented, as well as an opportunity for each party to make a recommendation to the board on the disposition of this matter. After the hearing is complete, the board will adjourn into closed session for deliberation. Once deliberations have concluded, the board will come back into open session, and final action will be taken in open session as far as whether the board approves or disapproves of the administration's recommendation that the employee's employment be terminated. During the hearing, board members may ask questions. However, questions should be related to procedural matters or to clarify any evidence that is introduced. These questions should be directed to myself or President Piasek and not towards either party, their witness, or legal representatives. Attendees do not have the right to ask any questions or otherwise participate in the proceedings. These procedures have been sent to the representatives of both parties before the proceedings started. Are there any additional questions with regards to the process that we're going to use today? Seeing no questions, I will now ask the board a question. Are there any board members who do not believe that they can make an impartial decision based on the evidence presented today? Seeing none, we will now move on with opening statements, starting with the administration.
Good afternoon. My name is Attorney Christina Kott. I'm an attorney with the law firm of Bulow, Better, Bukema, Olson & Fleet, and I am representing the administration here today. Thank you for being here today. This is a case about an employee's decision to substitute her own opinion over the judgment of the district administration and the resulting consequences. Melissa Temple, a first grade teacher at Higher Elementary, disagreed with the decision made by her supervisor, Principal Mark Schneider, about what song should be sung at the first grade spring concert at Higher Elementary. Rather than speak with Mark Schneider directly, Ms. Temple took to a widespread media campaign challenging the district's motives, misrepresenting the facts and underlying motivations to further her own interests rather than those of her students or the district. Ms. Temple's actions resulted in substantial disruption and safety concerns for the district. The administration has concluded Ms. Temple's conduct requires termination because she has demonstrated a propensity to substitute her opinion over the judgment of the administration and is not willing to work within the policies adopted by the board, which resulted in substantial disruption for the district. Today, you will be asked to decide whether termination is appropriate. The administration will call 3 witnesses today. You'll hear from Mark Schneider, who's the principal at Higher, Assistant Superintendent of Human Resources, Sharon Thede, and Superintendent, Dr. James Seaver. Principal Mark Schneider will tell you that Higher Elementary music teacher Jared Ziegler contacted him to ask him whether a song, Rainbowland, was appropriate for the first grade spring concert. Mr. Schneider will explain why he told Mr. Ziegler to choose a different song. After he asked Mr. Ziegler to choose a different song, the very next day, he suddenly began receiving media inquiries and requests for interviews about his song decision. Someone from the district sent him a Twitter post, and then he learned Ms. Temple had posted to her Twitter account about her disagreement with his decision. She also tagged the district, Dolly Parton, Miley Cyrus, G-Safe, and the Civil Rights Division, which was surprising to him because he had never spoken with Ms. Temple about the decision, and she had never reached out to him about it. Immediately thereafter, as a result of these postings, Higher Elementary received hundreds of emails, calls, voicemails, many of which contained vulgar, obscene, and threatening language. This continued to build during the week of the school's spring break. Mr. Schneider will tell you he was concerned for the safety of the students and the staff at the school, and he worked with Dr. Siebert and Assistant Superintendent Cook to ensure that there was a police presence at the school building to address safety concerns when the students returned from break. Mr. Schneider will also explain in the aftermath he was required to spend about 3 to 4 hours a day responding to inquiries following Ms. Temple's media communications, as well as addressing parent and staff concerns. Next, the administration will call Assistant Superintendent of Human Resources, Sharon Thiede. Ms. Thiede was asked to conduct an investigation into Ms. Temple's actions. Ms. Thiede discovered Ms. Temple had made numerous Twitter and social media posts, as well as given countless live interviews and news articles. Ms. Temple admitted to Ms. Thiede that she never spoke with her supervisor or any other administrator or district official about her concerns that the song would not be included in the school concert. Ms. Temple identified herself as a teacher with the district, tagging the district in multiple posts, was critical of the district, and revealed information to the media regarding the students in her class and their opinions and reactions related to the Rainbowland decision. Ms. Thiede will testify that Ms. Temple's actions resulted in substantial disruption to the district, including causing a safety issue which required increased security at Higher Elementary, as well as diverting district resources to address all of the media inquiries. Ms. Thiede will testify that she reviewed the district policies and determined that Ms. Temple had violated 3 policies and an employee handbook provision. This board has adopted Board Policy 3179. That's the policy that addresses employee concerns and requires employees first discuss any concerns with their immediate supervisor. And then, if the issue isn't settled, the employee can submit their concern to HR in writing and thereafter to the superintendent. Further, page 7 of the employee handbook requires employees to follow the chain of command when offering a suggestion or a comment. Ms. Temple violated this policy. The evidence will show Ms. Temple did not discuss her concerns with her supervisor nor with any other district official before communicating with the media. That's the first policy. The second policy this board has also adopted is Board Policy 3213. That's the policy that addresses student supervision and welfare, and it prohibits an employee from engaging students in social media and from posting any comments pertaining to any student on personal social media sites. Ms. Temple violated that policy. She engaged her students in a Twitter post and also referred to them in multiple interviews by describing their responses and opinions to the song decision. This is in violation of policy. Finally, the third policy that this board has adopted is Board Policy 3310, which is the one that addresses employee expression in non-instructional settings. This policy provides that when employees want to speak on issues related to the district, including matters related to the performance of their job duties or responsibilities, the employee's expression must be balanced against the interests of the district. Therefore, employees should refrain from expressions that would disrupt harmony among coworkers, interfere with the maintenance of discipline by school officials, and they should refrain from making public expressions which they know to be false or are made without regard for truth or accuracy. Ms. Thiede will testify that her investigation revealed Ms. Temple did not identify views as her own. She made statements that caused substantial disruption amongst coworkers and interfered with the maintenance of discipline by school officials, and also made statements which she did not check for accuracy. Finally, you will hear the testimony of Dr. Siebert, the superintendent. Dr. Siebert will testify that he also received hundreds of emails, voicemails, and communications as a result of Ms. Temple's media engagement. He obviously had safety concerns for the district, and the majority of his time in the weeks following spring break was spent engaging and responding to the aftermath of Ms. Temple's postings. He will testify that he received and adopted Ms. Thedy's investigation report. He concluded that Ms. Temple's conduct was inappropriate, disruptive, and in violation of the policies we just discussed. Further, he found her conduct to be deliberate, repeated, and intentional misconduct. He has recommended to the board that Ms. Temple's employment with the school district of Waukesha be terminated. Ms. Temple's decision to express her disagreement with Principal Mark Schneider's song choice decision in the media, as opposed to talking to Mr. Schneider directly or any other district official, had an immediate, severe, and negative impact on the district. She deliberately undermined the principal and superintendent's decisions and called into question the district's motivations. The manner in which she chose to express her disagreement violated multiple policies, caused safety concerns, and substantial disruption. Because of this, the administration has recommended that Ms. Temple must be terminated. For these reasons, after you have heard all of the evidence here today, the administration will ask you that you affirm Dr. Siebert's recommendation and terminate Ms. Temple's employment with the school district of Waukesha. Thank you.
And this will be your opportunity for opening statements.
Good afternoon. My name is Summer Murshid. I'm an attorney at FOX6 and I represent Melissa Temple. Thank you for your time this afternoon. The district's handbook allows for employees to be terminated for any reason as long as they're not arbitrary and capricious or in violation of any applicable law. While the administration is likely going to focus on the arbitrary and capricious component of that policy, I'd like to direct the board's attention to the last portion of the standard. The decision to terminate may not violate applicable law. Less than 2 weeks ago, the Supreme Court issued a decision and explained that the First Amendment envisions the United States as a rich and complex place where all persons are free to think and speak as they wish, not as the government demands. Melissa Temple is a public school teacher. In order for the First Amendment to protect Ms. Temple's speech, you'll have to determine whether she was speaking as a private citizen on a matter of public concern. Like many of the people in this room, Melissa Temple has a personal Twitter account and uses social media platforms. She engages with social media on her personal time when she is outside the classroom. These are important facts for you to consider when you're evaluating whether Ms. Temple is speaking as a private citizen. Another important fact for you to consider when you evaluate whether Ms. Temple is speaking as a private citizen is to question whether Ms. Temple's use and engagement with social media during her personal time is the type of speaking that falls within the scope of her employment with the district. The district does not pay Ms. Temple to tweet or engage in social media discussions and with parents or the community or her first graders. Ms. Temple is paid to educate first graders in the classroom. Tweeting and social media use is not the type of speech that's ordinarily within the duties of a first grade teacher for a variety of reasons, including that first graders don't have social media. We're going to ask you to honestly evaluate the evidence presented today, and when you do, you'll see that this is the type of speech that falls squarely within the protection afforded by the First Amendment. Specifically, the evidence is going to support our position that the tweets and interviews and public commentary at issue in this case represent Ms. Temple's protected, off-duty speech as a public citizen on a matter of public concern. Once you make that finding, I'm also going to ask you to decline to follow the administration's recommendation for termination. Because if you follow that recommendation, you will be violating Ms. Temple's First Amendment rights, and that would be a violation of the policy that this district has passed.
And this would be the administration's case.
the administration will call Principal Mark Schneider, and I think someone.
Go ahead.
Wondering if there's any board members concerned about the volume level from the table. I don't know if we need to advise people to bring mics closer, or if there's volume that needs to be increased. But I have some concerns it may not be loud enough for us to catch it.
Okay, I think that's a point taken, so to the extent we can try to speak into the microphone as much as possible, that would help.
Do that.
And Mr. Schneider, you've been called as a witness here. I'm going to swear you in. Do you solemnly swear the testimony you're about to give in this matter be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God? I'd ask that you state your full name and spell your last name for the record.
Mark Schneider, Schneider.
Your witness.
Good afternoon. Mr. Schneider, who is your employer?
The School District of Waukesha.
And what is your position with the district?
I am the principal of Higher Elementary.
And how long have you been in that position?
I just completed my 8th year.
What are your responsibilities as principal?
To ensure the health and well-being of all students and staff, and to ensure that we have a productive and learning environment, and all students deserve the best education that we can provide.
Are you familiar with Melissa Temple?
Yes, I am.
How are you familiar with her?
She's a first grade dual language teacher at Higher Elementary.
Were you her, or are you her direct supervisor?
Yes, I am.
How did you first become aware of the situation with Miss Temple, which is the subject of the hearing today?
I first became aware when a staff member shared a social media posting with me, and then I received an inquiry from media outlets.
Okay. And I understand before that you became looped into the song choice decision for the first grade spring concert. Is that right?
That's correct.
How did you first become aware about the song choice issue for the first grade concert?
I received an email from our music teacher, Mr. Jared Ziegler, on March 21st, inquiring about whether or not this song could be a part of the first grade concert.
Okay, and what specifically did his email say?
He said, I'm just wondering if this can be be included in our first grade concert.
And what song was he asking about?
He was asking about Rainbowland, and he included a link to a YouTube video.
Did he say why he was asking?
No, he just did it. He just was wondering if it was okay to include this into the concert.
What did you do in response to his email?
I called up our director of elementary education, Melissa Yao, just because I wanted a thought partner in the situation. Not sure why he was asking, and I just wanted to walk it through with somebody else, another administrator, so I sent her the link and the email that he sent me, and asked her to review and let me know her thoughts.
And did you have a discussion with Melissa Yao about this issue?
Yes, I spoke with her in the morning, and then later that afternoon we had a conversation about the content and inclusion of the song.
And what did you discuss with Melissa Yao?
We both agreed that there are better options for a first grade concert.
What parameters did you use to decide that there were better options for a first grade concert?
Well, we decided that I thought that the artist of the song can be considered controversial. If students are, Googling or researching one of the artists, some inappropriate images or videos could appear. I just felt that there's better options for a first grade concert.
What artist are you referring to?
Miley Cyrus.
Okay, why did you think that the artist was not appropriate for first graders?
Just knowing some of the past events that occurred with her and some of the images in the that she portrays, and just I don't feel it's appropriate for a first grade or 6 or 7 year olds.
Okay, so their age, 6 and 7, was a concern?
Correct.
Okay. Did you have a discussion about rainbows being a concern?
Not at all.
Okay. Did you just communicate your decision to Jared Ziegler?
Yes, I told him after school that afternoon, I said, you know, if you can choose a different song, that'd be great. And he immediately said, how about Rainbow Connection? And I said, yeah, that sounds great.
Did you tell him that you were, quote, banning Rainbowland?
Never.
Did you say that you were vetoing Rainbowland?
Nope, I simply asked him to make a different choice.
What did Mr. Ziegler say in response when you told him to choose a different song?
Like I said, he immediately said, how about Rainbow Connection? And I thought, Kermit the Frog, what's a better connection for 6 or 7 year olds?
And what did Jared say in response? I'm sorry, what did Mr. Ziegler say in response?
Mr. Ziegler stated that, yeah, sounds good, so we'll move forward with that song.
What happened next with regard to this issue?
So the next day, March 22nd, I received an inquiry from, an email from the Waukesha Freeman stating that a teacher had posted on social media that Rainbowland was not chosen or was banned from the concert and wanted to know why and whether it involved rainbows or not.
And how did you become aware that it was Ms. Temple who had made the Twitter post?
I had staff members that shared me the Twitter post and then also posts within a Facebook group called Waukesha for Science and Rainbows.
Did you view Ms. Temple's post directly?
Yes, I did.
What was your reaction when you saw her Twitter post?
Just kind of taken aback. I've only worked with Mr. Ziegler on the first grade concert. He inquired about it, and I was kind of surprised of that response.
Did you have any communication with Ms. Temple directly on this issue?
Never.
Did she reach out to you to express her concerns about your decision?
Not at all.
Did you follow up with Mr. Ziegler?
Yes, I did. So I received the media inquiry and then the postings, and I talked to Mr. Ziegler and I said, you know, at this time I can't approve Rainbow Connection or other songs. I don't know what's happening right now, and it's becoming an issue.
So did you approve any song at that point?
No.
So essentially you decided to put the decision on hold?
Yeah, I was taken aback by the posting, the media inquiry. I didn't realize that it was turning into a bigger deal, and I just needed some thought time. I said I can't approve anything at this point.
Okay. Did you tell Mr. Ziegler that Rainbow Connection was banned or vetoed?
I told him I can't approve it.
Okay. Did you then talk with Mr. Ziegler again?
Yes, so that afternoon we decided that we'll meet the next morning to discuss it further. So he and I sat down, we talked about the theme for the concert, and I asked him directly, what songs do you feel are best fit for this concert? We went through the song list and I approved it.
And what was the theme of the concert?
The theme of the concert was Earth and making a better world and connecting with Earth.
So did you also approve Rainbow Connection?
Yes.
Did you tell him that Rainbow Connection was back on?
No. He went through the song list with me, which included Rainbow Connection, and I said, sounds good. I think that's a great choice.
So Rainbow Connection was never off?
It was never off.
Okay. Did you ask him about Ms. Temple's involvement?
I did. I asked him who was choosing the songs for the concert and who was planning songs for the concert, because my experience in 8 years, it's always been him he's the only one that has developed the themes and chosen the songs for the concert.
Did you speak with the district administration about your decision?
After I spoke with Mr. Ziegler and we went through the song list and we both agreed that those were the best options for the concert, he indicated he would reach out to a school board if necessary. I told him that wouldn't be necessary. I went back to the school office, and then Dr. Siebert called me just because he's heard of some of the issues that are occurring, and I walked through what happened, and he said, yeah, sounds good.
Okay, so at that point when you spoke with Dr. Siebert, you had already made your decision with regard to Rainbow Connection.
That's correct.
Did you receive any additional communications from anyone, the media or anyone in the community following that time?
Yes.
What did you receive?
I received lots of inquiries and questions about choosing songs for the concert and why rainbows were banned from the concert. I received inquiry from some parents that I responded to. I received inquiries from community members and then led to members outside of our community.
What did you explain to the parents who were inquiring?
I expressed that, you know, and with the song choice, I just asked Mr. Ziegler to choose a different song, that it might be considered controversial.
So you testified that you also received media requests, is that right?
That's correct.
How many requests did you receive?
I would say probably 20 to 30, ballparking.
Okay. Did you respond to the requests?
I did not, I forwarded them to district.
Did you also receive communications from community members?
Yes, I did.
What sorts of communications did you receive?
Direct from community members, emails, some phone calls, and voicemails.
And what was the content of those communications?
There were some community members that had questions, but there were many that wanted to express their own opinion about what occurred.
And did you receive communications from those outside of the Waukesha community?
Yes.
What was the content of those communications?
Majority were very disgusting, quite honestly. Calling me every name in the book, from a bigot, homophobe, a Nazi, that, you know, I'll burn in hell, my right-wing ass will burn in hell.
Did you also receive voicemails?
Yes.
What was the content of those voicemails?
Oftentimes very vulgar, lots of inappropriate language, and stating that, you know, I'm gonna get what's coming to me.
Were those voicemails concerning to you?
Yes, absolutely.
Were you concerned for your safety?
I was concerned for my safety, but most importantly, the school and the students' safety.
How many communications like this did you receive?
I received probably over 100 emails and voicemails and phone calls, probably close to 30, 40.
Over what time period?
Majority occurred over the spring break time period, and then after spring break when we returned, continued for another week or so.
Okay, so this was occurring right before the district went on spring break, is that right?
Correct.
I understand that you also viewed some postings on Facebook that were concerning, correct?
Correct.
And what did those Facebook postings reference?
They referenced a recent school shooting in Nashville, saying that I pray Waukesha is next, and that victims are doubled, and, you know, we can hate too.
At some point, did you feel that you needed to take action in response to these postings and voicemails and emails that you received?
Yes, in working with district administrators, we needed to make sure that we erred on the side of caution and protected and ensured the safety of staff, students, and families.
Who did you speak with?
I spoke with Dr. Joe Cook, Dr. Siebert, and Ms. Sharon Thiede.
And what decision was made with regard to your next steps?
Well, the decision was made that we need to have a police presence, a large police presence at arrival and dismissal, and then support throughout the school day.
Okay, so this police presence would be in place when the students return from spring break?
Correct.
Okay, during this time, how much time were you spending a day working on these issues, responding to all of the inquiries and voicemails and emails?
During the spring break period, probably about 3 to 4 hours a day, and then when we returned, it took up a significant chunk of my time during the day. Probably, you know, I tried to mitigate that during the school day and tried to put that aside so that I can focus on students and staff. So, but it took time outside of school, probably 3 or 4 hours, continued for the next couple weeks.
Were you also receiving communications from staff members?
Yes, I was.
And what type of communications were you receiving?
I received concerns about working in a hostile environment, how there were some staff that were supportive of Mrs. Temple, and many staff that were really disappointed that it's turned into such a big deal and put their safety and the student safety at risk, and a lot of the chatter was not appropriate.
A lot of the staff members' chatter was not appropriate?
Correct.
And how was it not appropriate?
It made others feel uncomfortable, made others feel like that they were in an environment that not suitable for professionals.
Did you respond to the staff members that reached out to you?
Yes.
How many did you speak with?
Approximately 7.
Was this issue taking away time from learning?
Yes.
How so?
I wasn't able to focus on my day-to-day duties as focused as much as I'd like to focus. Definitely staff were distracted, and some were very anxious, and weren't able to fulfill their duties 100%.
Did Ms. Temple return to the classroom at the end of spring break?
No, she did not.
Why not?
She was put on administrative leave pending an investigation.
Were you a part of the decision to place her on leave?
No, I was not.
Were you tasked with conducting the investigation?
No.
Were you informed she would be placed on leave?
Yes.
Who was in charge of making sure there would be coverage in the classroom while she was on leave?
That was my responsibility.
And what did you do to find coverage?
We utilized our bilingual building substitute to cover the class.
And what is her name?
Her name is Sophia McQuitty.
Was Ms. McQuitty familiar with the students in Ms. Temple's classroom prior to coming back from spring break and stepping into her classroom?
Yes, she was very familiar. She spent a significant amount of time. She did sub in the classroom when Ms. Temple was out, and then also whenever there was additional time in her schedule, we would place her within Mrs. Temple's classroom and Ms. Aranda's classroom, the other first grade dual.
Why was she being placed in the first grade classrooms?
Just the needs of the students. They needed some more support than other classrooms.
Have you ever had other situations in the past where teachers are absent from the classroom for an extended period of time?
Yes.
Do you have a protocol in place to how to handle these absences?
Yes, if it's a time that we have to prepare, we would post or try to find a long-term sub. But if it's something that happens kind of right away without much time to prep or plan, we would use our building substitute as well as the support from coaches and support staff.
What's the purpose of having a building substitute?
To make sure that we're able to cover, and in a bilingual, in a dual language environment, it's important to have a bilingual sub to continue the language of instruction for our students.
How long was Ms. McQuitty in Ms. Temple's classroom?
She was in the classroom from return from spring break to the end of the school year.
Did you spend any time in the classroom with Ms. McQuitty?
Yes.
When?
I purposely checked in each day, and then also try to make sure that I was there to be there proactively, but also in times when support was needed.
Were there other supports in place for Ms. McQuitty and her students?
Yes, we provided additional support staff and with dual language assistance, changed some timing and added more time for them to be in the classroom with Ms. McQuitty. Then all of our instructional coaches made sure that they set time to plan with Ms. McQuitty and the other first grade teacher. They connected with her daily, in addition to our student service team connected with her to make sure that we put plans in place to support kids.
And when did you become aware that Ms. McQuitty was going to be in the classroom for an extended period of time through the end of the school year?
I would say probably, just reality set in probably towards the end of April, beginning of May.
And did you prepare a plan in the event that Ms. Temple did not return?
Yes, we did.
What was the plan?
We plan to, again, have our coaches continue to plan and go through the remaining units of instruction with Ms. McQuitty, put a plan in place for assessments for students, or assessment of students, put in plan for remaining report cards, end of year closeouts with coach supporting Ms. McQuitty. Then we also sat with our student service team to do some wraparound plans for students, and then also looking at changing some of the procedures and protocols in the classroom to make sure that they were a fit for Ms. McQuitty's teaching style.
Were you informed of the results of the investigation once it was completed?
Yes.
Who informed you of the results?
Ms. Thiede.
Were you involved in the investigation in any way,
No.
other than being interviewed?
Yeah, other than being interviewed, yes.
Did you provide any input into Dr. Siebert's recommendation?
No.
What was your response when you heard the recommendation was to terminate?
Based upon the amount of time that I knew that probably was going to be that decision.
Were you surprised?
No.
Why not?
Just based upon the amount of resources, the amount of stress, and the amount of difficulty it put on our school and community.
Were you surprised by Ms. Temple's actions?
Yes.
Why?
I would expect that if there's a concern or question, that there would be a conversation and, approach me or another administrator to discuss the concerns.
And Mr. Ziegler responded and followed up with you directly with
Yeah,
his concerns?
yes, Mr. Ziegler responded appropriately. We had a discussion. He wanted to discuss more about choice of music and actually, sent a message to Dr. Siebert saying that he wanted to have a discussion about, how to provide some guidance and make sure that we're moving forward, that we are on the same page on things.
What impact do you think that Ms. Temple's actions had on the school, based upon what you witnessed?
Well, it created a chaotic situation, took a lot of time and resources, put, in my opinion, our students and staff at risk, created a divided culture within our school.
Okay, thank you. That's all I have.
Attorney Mershid, your witness.
Sure, thank you. Is this better on the mic? Right. Hi, Mr. Schneider.
Hi.
My name is Summer Mershid. I'm Ms. Eagle's attorney. I'm just going to try to clarify a couple of things if I can, okay?
Sure.
So you indicated that you received about 20 to 30 media requests. Do you remember testifying to that?
Yeah, it's about
Okay.
accurate.
And you stated that you didn't respond, but you forwarded those on.
Yes, the district created a statement for media, and I felt that I didn't need to respond to that.
Okay,
Media.
so, I'm sorry, did you forward those emails to someone within the district, or you respond?
Yes.
Okay. Who'd you forward those to?
Mrs. Thede, Dr. Siebert, Dr. Cook.
So you weren't engaged in any media interaction?
Correct.
Okay. You also indicated that you received over 100 emails? Is that
Yes.
sound right? Okay. Did you respond to each of those emails?
I did not.
Did you respond to any of them?
I did not.
Okay, what'd you do with them?
I sent the ones that were disturbing and I felt needed to be archived. I sent to Mrs. Thede and Dr. Siebert.
Did you save all of the emails?
Yes.
Where are those saved?
They are in my email inbox, or in my archive, and then the ones, like I said, I shared with district that were concerned.
Okay, and how many would you say you were concerned about that you shared with Ms. Thede and Dr. Siebert?
Estimation, probably about 20.
Okay. And did you report those to the police? Did you forward those to the police?
I did not.
You also indicated you received 30 to 40 voicemails or calls, right?
Yeah, that's accurate.
Okay. Primarily over the week of spring break, is that right?
Yes, most of the voicemails were on our main school line that our secretary went through and listened to.
Okay. Was Higher closed during spring break?
Yes.
Okay, so you weren't answering the phone, no one was answering the
Correct.
phone? Okay. Of the 30 voicemails and calls that you testified to, how many were voicemails and how many were calls?
During spring break, there were probably about 20 to 30 voicemails. After spring break, the calls continued when we returned and we're back open.
And I think you testified it was for the next couple of weeks?
Correct.
Would that be 2 weeks?
Yeah, I would say about 2 weeks.
And how many calls would you say you were getting a day on this for those next 2 weeks after spring break?
I'd estimate that 3 to 4 per day.
All right, and for the voicemails that you testified to, did you call all of those people back?
No,
Did you call any of them back?
no,
Were there concerning voicemails?
yes,
Did you forward those to Ms. Thede and Dr. Siebert?
yes,
Did you report any of them to the police?
no.
You also indicated that you determined in conjunction with other members of the administration that there should be a police presence at arrival and dismissal after spring break, is that right?
Yes.
Okay. How many police officers?
I think when we returned on that Monday, we had, I want to say 3 to 4 patrol officers at arrival, and then once everybody was in the building, We had one officer that stayed the remainder of the day, and then at dismissal, I think another 3 to 4.
And that was on the Monday?
That Monday, and then we had that on Tuesday and Wednesday as well.
Okay, and then after that, was there any additional police presence?
Yes, we had a squad at arrival and dismissal, and then our SR or our school liaison was in quite a bit.
Okay, so you had a squad at a, sorry, you mean just like a squad car parked?
Yeah, squad car, yeah,
Okay.
and then we had the presence.
Okay, and so then how long was the squad car there?
Into the next week,
Okay, the full next week or just part of it?
mostly, I believe the full next week.
Okay. And then outside of that, it was just the regular liaison officer?
Yes, but I was in contact with our liaison as well as one of the school resource officers at South, I believe, or their community officer.
Okay, you were in contact with him as in you spoke on the phone to him?
Yes, and he was available as needed.
Was he needed?
There was times that we had him come, yeah.
Okay, how many times?
That specific officer, we asked when our school resource or school liaison wasn't available, I'd say maybe probably 3 or 4 times.
Okay, so he replaced the school liaison, he wasn't additional police presence?
Right,
And that was just in those 2 weeks after spring break?
approximately.
What are the office hours at Higher?
Typically,
Like, when is the building open?
building is 7:45 to 4 o'clock.
And you testified that you were Ms. Temple's direct supervisor. How long have you held that position?
I've been at Higher Elementary for 8 years. Mrs. Temple has been there 5.
And how often would you say you had contact with Ms. Temple in her role as a first grade teacher at Higher?
Depend on the day and the week, but typically daily.
And did you also give her annual reviews?
Yes,
Did you ever give her a negative review
not from her last one, no.
for any of them?
No.
Do you have any concerns about her abilities as a first grade teacher?
I wouldn't say concerns of ability as a first grade teacher, but concerns with some professionalism.
Oh, okay. Did you ever write her up?
I did not.
Is it part of a first grade teacher's job at Higher to maintain a Twitter account?
It's never been requested.
Okay, my question is it part of the job duties?
No.
Is it part of any teacher's job duties to maintain any social media accounts at Higher?
No.
Part of their job duties to engage in social media or provide interviews to the press?
No.
You don't have any reason to believe, as you sit here today, that Ms. Temple did any of these things during her workday, do you?
I couldn't tell.
Okay. There's no facts in your mind that you can think of that would point to that, right?
No.
Okay, and Ms. Temple wasn't acting pursuant to any directive from you when she tweeted or otherwise engaged in social media on her personal time, right?
No.
Do you remember writing a letter for Ms. Temple in March of this year?
Yes.
It was in early March, a couple weeks before the Rainbowland post, right?
Correct.
Do you remember your sentiments in that letter about Ms. Temple?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I said she's a great first grade teacher.
I think you called her a master teacher. Does that sound right?
That's correct.
That she was incredible and inspired children.
Correct.
She was, I think, magical with children was one of your quotes.
Yes.
Did you say that she consistently ensures everything she does is completed with the well-being of all children in mind?
Correct.
And she's thorough and intentional in her planning of instruction? Did you say that?
Yeah.
And that she's passionate in ensuring that she educates the whole child. Did you say that?
Correct.
As you sit here today, do you still think those sentiments are true?
Yeah, she's been a great teacher.
So I just want to confirm also that Mr. Ziegler approached you about Rainbowland, right?
Yes.
And you said that was very normal because he had been doing that and organizing the musical for the last 8 years, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay. Clearly within the purview of his job duties as a music teacher.
Yes.
When you talked to Mr. Ziegler about making a
said can make a different choice, and he immediately said Rainbow Connection.
Do you specifically recall receiving any emails from members of the Alliance for Education in Waukesha?
I don't recall.
Okay. If you had, would they be saved in your archive box?
Most likely.
You didn't delete anything that you got, right?
I don't believe I did.
Was class at Higher Elementary canceled or suspended as a result of Ms. Temple's tweets or the media attention?
No.
Okay. Was there any loss of instructional time for students?
I would say that the time definitely was impacted as others were distracted by other goings-on that needed to be addressed.
Okay, sorry, my question was there any loss of instructional time for students? And you're saying that teachers were distracted so they weren't able to teach?
That's one issue, and then the other issue is just the amount of time that's devoted to ensuring the safety of kids. So I would say yeah.
Okay, and so did you make up those additional instructional hours that are required by DPI?
It was within the school day, we tried our best.
Okay. Were there any specific security threats made against Higher Elementary?
Besides threatening posts,
Right, you
ones
mentioned the
kind
one,
of alluded to
sorry, go ahead.
Possible violence.
Yeah, there's that one Facebook post you referenced.
Yes,
Was that reported to the police?
yes.
And
believe it
is the district pressing charges against that person?
I'm not sure where the investigation went.
Okay, there is a criminal investigation?
I know the post was shared with the police, yes.
Okay, but you don't know if there's a criminal investigation?
I don't know.
Okay. Other than that Facebook post, were there any other specific security threats made against Higher?
Definitely some of the statements and voicemails and emails were alluding to the fact that we'll get what we deserve.
Okay, those are the ones that you forwarded to Ms. Beatty. Other than those,
I think that's enough.
do you know if any other district teachers or staff have posted about Rainbowland or Miss Temple or this situation?
I'm not aware.
Other than her Twitter post and the surrounding circumstances and media attention that it generated, can you think of any other reason that Miss Temple should be terminated?
It's not for me to decide.
Right, as her direct supervisor, do you have any performance or other concerns that you think?
These are all things that I spoke with Mrs. Temple about, her tardiness, missing meetings, and a comment made to a specific student that was very inappropriate, and professionalism with another colleague.
So, but you didn't write her up for any of those?
No, I did not.
And those weren't mentioned in your March letter, right? Where you called her a master teacher and said she's highly collaborative and supportive of her peers?
Correct.
Did those things that you just listed happen between March 5th and March 21st when she made her post?
No.
They predated this letter.
Correct.
And it's your position that her tardiness and missing a meeting would be grounds for termination?
No.
Okay. Do you think it will be a loss to the Higher Elementary community if Ms. Temple is terminated?
Yeah, losing a teacher is always difficult, especially one that made connections.
I don't have any further questions.
Any redirect?
Yes. Mr. Schneider, you just testified that you did not respond to all of the emails and voicemails that you received, correct?
Correct.
But you did read and receive them, right?
Yes.
And you did have to act on them by either saving them or sending them to someone, right?
Correct.
You testified that you did not forward some of those to the police, is that right?
Correct.
You were not the one who was in charge of communicating directly with the police on this issue, correct?
No, I was not.
Who was?
I believe Dr. Cook was primary and Mrs. Thede were the primary contacts with the police. They assured me that those that were needed to get forwarded would be.
Okay, and Dr. Cook was handling the communications with the police directly?
Yes.
You testified that no one was answering the phone during spring break. However, people were still receiving voicemails during this time period, correct?
Yes, my secretary gets all the voicemails that come in the direct line, and she unfortunately did listen to them while she was on spring break.
You personally were not in charge of the police presence strategy, correct?
Correct.
Who was?
Dr. Cook.
Do you think a 2-week increase in police presence on campus is insignificant?
No.
You viewed Ms. Temple's Twitter post, correct?
Yes.
In that post, did she identify herself as a teacher with the district?
Yes.
In fact, she tagged the district, didn't she?
Correct.
If a teacher has a disagreement with your decisions, would you expect that they would contact you, even if you hadn't directly asked for inquiries or opened up a channel of communication?
Yes.
Would you expect for them to take to social media rather than reaching out to you just because you hadn't specifically asked for communication?
No.
Was it your responsibility to investigate the veracity or the validity of any of the voicemails or concerning emails or posts?
No.
Whose responsibility was that?
That was the district level, Mrs. Thede and Dr. Cook.
Okay, do you know it was their responsibility or was that the police responsibility?
It was the police responsibility to investigate, but I know that they shared them with the police to investigate further.
Okay, thank you. I have nothing further.
I don't have anything else, thank you.
Okay, so Mr. Schneider, you would be completed with your testimony. Is there any interest in having Mr. Schneider available for recall?
I think we can release them.
I think that's fine.
Okay, there is seating, Mr. Schneider, for witnesses. If you choose to stick around, you're not required to. So, thank you. Does the administration have additional witnesses?
We do. Next we will be calling Sharon Thede, and I believe she's on her way.
And good afternoon, Ms. Thede. I am going to swear you in here, and I've asked that you raise your right hand. Do you solemnly swear that you will tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God? Okay, and if you could, for the record, state your full name and spell your last name.
Sharon Thede, T as in Tom, H-I-E-D-E.
Okay, and you are the witness of the administration.
Correct.
Good afternoon, Ms. Thede. Can you please state for the record, who is your employer?
The School District of Waukesha.
And we just had an issue earlier about volume, so make sure that you speak right into the microphone.
Okay.
Thank you. What is your position with the district?
Assistant Superintendent for Human Resources,
And how long have you been in that position?
4 years.
What are your responsibilities in that position?
The hiring of employees, investigations, upholding policy.
Are you familiar with Melissa Temple?
Yes, I am.
How are you familiar with her?
She's a teacher in the district and most recently specifically through this investigation.
Okay. I'd like you to turn to what is marked as Exhibit 9. You should have a binder in front of you of the administration's exhibits. Have you seen this document before?
Yes, I have.
What is it?
It is the cover letter that goes with the teaching contract.
And if you turn to the next page, what's behind it?
Teaching contract.
Okay. And did you provide this to Ms. Temple in the course and scope of your job in Human Resources?
Yes.
And do you maintain this document in your personnel files in the course and scope of your job as Assistant Superintendent of Human Resources?
Yes.
Okay. I'd like to offer Exhibit 9 into evidence.
So moved.
Ms. Thede, how did you first become aware of the situation involving Melissa Temple?
I first became aware that there was a situation when Mark Schneider sent me an email regarding a media request.
And Mark Schneider is the principal at Higher Elementary, right?
Correct.
And I understand you were asked to conduct an investigation into the situation, is that right?
Yes, it is.
Who instructed you to complete that investigation?
Dr. Jim Siebert.
And what were you asked to do?
To investigate to determine if there were any policy violations.
Were you instructed to place Melissa Temple on administrative leave pending the investigation?
Yes, I was.
Who instructed you to do so?
Dr. Jim Siebert.
And did you do so?
Yes, I did.
When did you begin your investigation?
Either right before or into spring break.
Okay. And what did you do to conduct your investigation?
I reviewed social media postings. I reviewed articles and conducted conducted interviews.
Okay. Did you review anything else?
I reviewed Ms. Temple's personnel file. I reviewed voicemails that we received, emails that were collected as well.
Okay, at the close of your investigation, did you memorialize your investigation findings in writing?
Yes.
Okay. Can you turn to what's marked as Exhibit 1? Have you seen this document before?
Yes, I have.
What is it?
It is my investigative report.
And did you create this document?
Yes, I did.
Can you turn to the first page following your conclusions?
Page 4.
It's actually marked page 1 at the top.
Okay, I'm there.
What is this section of the document?
This is the beginning of posts that were on Twitter.
Did you create this document?
Yes, I did.
When did you create it?
During the course of my investigation.
And how did you create it?
By going through the Twitter postings and taking screenshots and pasting them in this document.
Whose Twitter postings were you looking at?
Melissa Temple's.
And did you go directly to Melissa Temple's Twitter account?
Yes,
And you took screenshots of the images?
correct.
How did you know it was her account?
It's Maestra Melissa is the name of the account, and then I verified upon my interview with Melissa that this is her Twitter account.
Okay. Did these social media images accurately reflect what you were viewing on your computer screen while you were viewing her Twitter page?
Yes.
If you turn to page 35, why does it say Facebook deleted, question mark?
This was not on Twitter, so this, I believe, was a Facebook post on Ms. Temple's Facebook page, but when I went to access it, it was not there.
Where did you get this?
It was provided to me.
Okay, if you turn to page 56, why does it say later deleted?
Similarly, this was a post that I was not able to access, but this image was provided for me, but it was not on Twitter when I went to look for it.
Did she admit that she had posted this?
This, yes.
Okay. Were there any other postings contained within your document that had been deleted?
Not that I can recall.
Okay. If you turn to page 63, can you describe to us what the first 6 links are?
The first 6 links on this page are live interviews with Melissa, or they are coverage. So they're video links.
Did you personally view the videos contained within these links?
Yes, I did.
When did you access the videos?
Throughout the course of my investigation.
And are those videos accurately reflected in the administration's flash drive?
Yes.
What are the remaining links on this document?
The remaining links are links to articles that I viewed.
Did you personally visit these websites and view the articles?
Yes.
When did you access them?
Throughout the course of my investigation.
Do the links take you to the articles that you viewed?
Yes, they do.
And do the Twitter posts, videos, and news articles that you've just described form part of the basis for your conclusions in your report?
Yes, they do.
I'd like to offer Exhibit 1 into evidence.
For the record, we'll reassert the objections the parties briefed last week regarding this exhibit, but I understand they've been overruled for purposes of the objection, or for the hearing today. I'd just like the record to reflect that we reserve the right to renew the objections and any other objections that might be appropriate in future litigation as needed.
Okay, thank you. So we'll allow Exhibit 1 into the record. We'll note that there was a discussion between the parties regarding an objection, and it was in fact overruled. Thank you.
Ms. Thede, turning back to page 1 of Exhibit 1, which is your report, you have a list of interviews that you conducted, right?
Correct.
Who did you interview?
I interviewed Mark Schneider, Jared Ziegler, Angie Aranda, Katie Dollar, and Melissa Temple.
Why did you interview Mark Schneider?
He, as the principal of the building, just to get background knowledge regarding what happened with the song selection.
And what did you learn from Mark Schneider that was relevant to your investigation?
I learned that he did talk with Melissa Yao and then ultimately told the music teacher to go with another song. He did not use the word banned or vetoed. Additionally, the Rainbow Connection song was originally kind of put on hold, and then ultimately they were told they were allowed to sing it.
Okay, did you learn anything about Mr. Schneider's receipt of communications?
He did not talk with Melissa Temple at all regarding song choice for the music concert.
Okay. Do you understand that Mr. Schneider began to receive emails and voicemails of concern?
Yes.
Did Mr. Schneider tell you about any safety concerns that he had?
They did have safety concerns for the school, especially coming back after spring break.
Did Mr. Schneider testify in his investigation interview about any concerns he had with regard to personnel issues?
He was worried about school safety with the people coming back. In addition, received some complaints or concerns from staff for fear of their safety.
Thank you. Why did you interview Jared Ziegler?
To again find out what happened with, get information regarding song choice.
And what did you learn from Mr. Ziegler that was of relevance to your investigation report?
That he was the one who suggested the song Rainbowland and then ultimately put out the song lineup, decided to check with Mr. Schneider regarding the song Rainbowland, and then communicated that Rainbowland was going to be out and that Rainbow Connection was in.
Did you learn why Mr. Ziegler reached out to Mr. Schneider about the song?
He stated that rainbows have been overly political in our district, so he thought that he would check with Mr. Schneider just to make sure.
Did you learn whether Mr. Ziegler heard Mr. Schneider use the words banned or vetoed?
Mr. Ziegler does not believe that Mr. Schneider used those words.
Okay. What did Mr. Ziegler tell Ms. Temple with regard to the decision?
Rainbowland is out, Rainbow Connection is in.
Okay, why did you interview Angie Aranda?
She was also part of the song selection.
And what did you learn from Ms. Aranda that was of relevance to your investigation report?
It was similar in nature regarding the brainstorm of the song and then the song lineup.
Okay, why did you interview Katie Deller?
She is another first grade teacher, so again, just figuring out what happened regarding that initial decision.
And what did you learn from Ms. Deller that was of relevance to your investigation report?
She did not have anything to offer my report.
Why not?
She didn't have knowledge or detail regarding song selection.
Okay, and then finally, why did you interview Ms. Temple?
She's the one who made the Twitter post.
What did you learn from Ms. Temple that was of relevance to your investigation report?
She stated that she did not talk with Mr. Schneider or anyone at the district level regarding her concern about that song not being selected. She also stated she wasn't sure why the song was not allowed, however, tweeted that she believes it's because of rainbows.
Did she confirm to you that she authored the posted tweets?
Yes, she did.
Did you present the tweets to her for confirmation?
Not in print, but I had her Twitter up and showed her the Twitter, and she confirmed that was hers.
Did she confirm that she gave media interviews?
Yes.
Did she admit that she had posted Rainbow Connection was unbanned?
I would have to check my report. She posted Rainbow Connection was unbanned today after parents sent emails to admin.
Okay. On page 2 of your report, you have a quote from a Today article. Is that right?
Let's see. Yes.
I believe it's the second to last paragraph on page 2.
Okay, I see what it is.
Can you turn to the Today article within Exhibit 1?
Okay.
What is the quote that was of significance to you from this article?
It wasn't until parents put pressure on the principal and the superintendent, Temple says, that the administration reversed their decision and students were allowed to perform Rainbow Connection.
Did you learn in the course of your investigation whether the administration had reversed its decision in response to pressure that was put on the principal and superintendent?
I learned that they did not reverse the decision based on pressure put on the principal or superintendent.
Did you learn during your investigation whether Ms. Temple fact-checked this statement before posting it? Or I'm sorry, before giving the statement to media?
She did not fact-check it.
In your report, you also found that Ms. Temple identified herself as a teacher at the district in multiple interviews, correct?
Yes.
If you turn to page 1 of the Twitter posts, is this the first time that Ms. Temple identifies herself as a teacher with the district? Is this the first example?
Yes.
Okay, and she tags the district in this tweet, correct?
Correct.
And she also, does she reference that she's a teacher?
She says my first graders were so excited and take the district.
Okay. Are there any other examples of when she identifies herself as a teacher?
Yes.
If you turn to page 54 of the Twitter posts. Does she identify herself as a teacher with the district in this post?
The district is tagged and it says, I appreciate this donation so much at Miley Cyrus. Unfortunately, I don't think my district will allow these inclusive books due to board policy 2240.
Okay. On the next page of your report, which is page 3, you have some quotes from Ms. Temple in the first paragraph. Do you see that?
I do.
Where did you get these quotes from?
These were on social media.
Okay, and can you read for us what Ms. Temple's quotes are in that first paragraph?
She questioned if she would lose her job and stated, "I definitely don't want to be fired. I want to leave on my own accord." She also posted on social media and later deleted, "I'm okay. I have a lawyer but may need a job."
Okay, so the first section of quotes, do you know where that came from?
I don't recall. I think the first part might have been from one of the live interviews, but I'm not sure.
Okay, I understand that you viewed a live interview and transcribed some quotes that were of concern to you. Is that right?
Correct.
If you turn to page 63, is that an example of the transcription that you created?
Yes.
Okay. Can you read for us the quotes that were of concern to you?
On page 63.
Yes.
I don't want to. I mean, I'm probably going to be in trouble already. I definitely don't want to be fired. I want to leave on my own accord as an educator. I'm at the point now where if I lose my job or if I'm disciplined, the benefit of being able to speak on these issues is far greater than the loss of that position. I have done a lot of interviews in the past 2 days, and not just because I am a teacher.
Okay, what was of concern to you about those quotes?
She is identifying herself as an educator in this interview, and then indicating about losing her job, so tying herself to the job in the school.
Okay. In your second paragraph on page 3, you posted a quote, you include a posted quote from Ms. Temple. Can you read that for us?
If I don't tweet for more than 5 days before June 9th, I've been threatened with disciplinary action.
And then it looks like she deleted the post. Is that right?
That's correct.
Did you ask her about this in her interview?
I did.
And what did she tell you?
She stated she deleted the post because her attorney at the time told her to.
And why was that of concern to you?
Again, acknowledging disciplinary action, acknowledging that she knew she was breaking policy and was worried that there may be disciplinary action.
You also noted that she posted about doxing. Is that right?
Correct.
What is your understanding of what doxing means?
Putting people's information on the internet, and it can, depending on what the target is, it can cause negative attention.
Okay. Can you read for us the quote from Ms. Temple's tweet about doxing?
We are trying to get this ban removed, and my school is not the appropriate target. Also, doxing is not cool.
Why was that of relevance to your report?
It indicated Ms. Temple knew that there was a potential safety concern as she asked the poster to remove hires information.
How many tweets did Ms. Temple post on this topic?
Over 60.
And I understand that you also reviewed multiple articles, correct?
Correct.
And have you included links to all the articles you reviewed?
Yes.
What's your understanding of how many articles were published with regard to this issue?
Over 30.
I also understand you reviewed multiple videos, is that correct?
Yes.
And you've included the links to all the videos that you personally reviewed, right?
Correct.
Okay. I also understand that you reviewed voice messages, is that right?
Yes.
Okay. I'd like you to turn to what is marked as Exhibit 2. What is this document?
This is a summary of a sampling of voicemails.
And who received these voicemails?
Various people throughout the district, so specifically Higher Elementary and Sue Ettinger with the superintendent's office.
Okay. Who prepared this document?
Sue Ettinger did.
Why did she prepare it?
I asked her to pull a sampling of some of the voicemails that she received
And when did she prepare it?
over the course of my investigation.
Did you also review the voicemails and listen to the underlying voicemails that this Exhibit 2 summarizes?
Yes.
How do you know who received the voicemails?
We get them in an email, and so then they were either given to Sue or they were forwarded to Sue.
Did you review the email that was auto-generated by your phone system that has a date and time stamp?
Yes.
So you were able to verify that the district did in fact receive the calls?
Yes.
Okay. What was significant about these voicemails?
It indicated, just to show the disruption that this was causing the district, in addition to the anger which resulted in that safety concern.
And are the voicemails contained on the administration's flash drive the same voicemails that you listened to as a part of your investigation?
Yes.
Can you read for the record some of the voicemails that were of concern to you as it relates to your report?
Sorry to interrupt, I don't think this has been entered into evidence yet, are you?
Sure, I can offer Exhibit 2 into evidence now.
Okay, and for the record, we'll reassert the same objections that were briefed and overruled and reserve the right to assert those and any other relevant ones moving forward in litigation.
Okay, we'll move Exhibit 2 into the record and note the objection and note it is overruled.
You can go on, Sharon.
And could you repeat the question?
Yes, I was asking if you could read for the record some of the voicemails that were of concern and relevant to your report.
Some examples that I included in the report were, hey, I heard your school district doesn't like gay people. Fuck you, you fucking retards. Kill yourselves. And religious-based cultural ignorance, how stupid this is. You are small, mindless assholes. Consider changing this or face the consequences. And you are a fucking cunt. You are a dumb fucking cunt for working for that pig, rotten hell.
Why were these voicemails of concern?
Again, to show that the anger, the disruption to the district, and the safety concern.
Do you know if these voicemails were provided to the police?
I am not certain.
Were you responsible for communicating directly with the police on this issue?
No, I was not.
Okay. Do you know who was from the district?
I would be guessing, likely Joe Cook or Jim Siebert.
Okay. Thank you. So you reviewed several policies in the course of your investigation, is that right?
Yes.
Which policies did you review?
3179, employee concerns. 3213, student supervision and welfare. 3310, employee expression in non-instructional settings.
And did you also review the employee handbook?
Yes, I did.
I'd like you to turn to what's been marked as Exhibit 5. In fact, I want you to look at 5, 6, and 7.
Okay.
So starting with 5, what is this document?
This is policy 3179.
And where is this document stored electronically?
On our district website.
Okay. What is Exhibit 6?
3213, student supervision and welfare.
The policy.
Policy, correct.
Okay. And what is Exhibit 7?
Policy 3310, employee expression in non-instructional settings.
Where are all 3 of these documents stored electronically?
On our district website.
And are these exhibits a true and accurate copy of the relevant board policies?
Yes.
Okay. I'd like to offer them into evidence at this point. Okay, I'd also like you to turn to Exhibit 4.
Okay.
Have you seen this document before?
Yes.
What is it?
It is our handbook for professional staff.
Okay, is this a true and accurate copy of the handbook which you reviewed in the course of your investigation?
Yes.
And is this the handbook to which Ms. Temple is subject?
Yes.
I'd also like to offer Exhibit 4 into the record.
So moved.
Ms. Thede, in your investigation report, you make several conclusions as it relates to these policies that we've just identified. Is that right?
Yes.
Okay. I'd like to go through your conclusions. You found that she violated the policies you cite. Is that right?
Correct.
Okay. Turning to policy 3179. How did she violate this policy? I'm sorry, let's back up. What does that policy require?
This policy talks about the employee should first discuss a concern with their immediate supervisor. And then from there, if it's not resolved, then talk with the building administrator, which would have been her immediate supervisor, and then from there, go to the assistant superintendent for HR, and so on.
Okay. And I understand page 7 of the employee handbook has a related provision, is that right?
Correct, that says that they should follow chain of command when offering a suggestion or comment.
Okay. And how did Ms. Temple strike that? You found that Ms. Temple violated both 3179 and this provision of the employee handbook, is that right?
Correct.
How did she violate them?
She did not follow chain of command when she was to express her concern that she was upset about Rainbowland not being included in that concert. Instead, she posted her concern and opinion on Twitter.
Did the evidence demonstrate to you the reason or purpose that she did so?
To bring attention to a negative attention to the district by tagging the district, tagging media outlets.
Okay. I'd like to turn to policy 3213, supervision and welfare. What does that policy require?
This says that staff should not engage students in social media and online networking, and that they should not be posting comments pertaining to any student.
Did you find that Ms. Temple had violated this policy?
Yes.
How did she violate this policy?
She talked about her students being excited to sing the song, being upset that they were not able to sing the song, and ultimately engaged her students when stating, if my students see this, I really hope that they see that even if you're just a teacher, you can speak out.
Okay, why was it concerning that she said, if my students see this, I really hope they see that even if you're a teacher, you can speak out?
Because she's engaging her students on social media.
Okay, and this was on her personal Twitter account?
Correct.
Is that in violation of the policy?
Yes.
Okay. So she also was providing information about her students' reactions and feelings, is that correct?
Yes.
And that's in violation of the policy as well?
Correct.
With regard to policy 3310, employee expression, what does this policy require?
That if they express conflicts with the district's interests, they should clearly state that the expression represents their personal views and not that of the district. Refrain from expressions that would disrupt harmony among coworkers or interfere with the maintenance of discipline by school officials, and refrain from making public expressions that they know to be false or without regard to truth or accuracy.
Did Ms. Temple violate this policy?
Yes.
How?
She represented herself as an educator in the district, did not state that her expressions are her personal views. Her statements did disrupt the harmony of the school and the district environment.
How did they disrupt the harmony?
People being upset, feeling fearful that it was an unsafe situation. And then the comments about Rainbow Connection not being reinstated was not true.
And your investigation determined that those comments were false?
Correct.
Okay. Are there any other conclusions that you reached which we have not yet discussed?
Ultimately, she disagreed with the decision to not include the song, which she can do, but she did not follow proper protocol to express that disagreement.
And what would have been the proper protocol?
I would begin by talking with Mr. Schneider.
Okay. Did you determine that her conduct here was intentional?
Yes.
And did you determine that she connected her communications to her job and position with the district?
Yes,
And how did she do that?
by identifying herself as a teacher and taking the district.
Okay. Did you understand her to be speaking as a private citizen?
No,
Okay. So you understood her to be speaking with regard to her role as an employee with the district, right?
correct.
How so?
By identifying herself as a teacher and an employee with the district.
And referencing events that had happened in her job as a teacher, right?
Correct.
Okay. Did you determine that Ms. Temple's actions had undermined the interests of the district?
Yes,
How so?
by posting and then the subsequent safety issues, we had to divert a lot of our time and attention to investigating and working through this.
Did you provide your report to Dr. Siebert?
Yes, I did.
Did you make a recommendation as to the level of discipline, if any, Ms. Temple should receive?
No, I did not.
Is it your responsibility to recommend the level of discipline?
No,
Whose responsibility is it?
Dr. Sievers.
And were you involved in his recommendation?
No.
Is there anything else that you would like the board to know today as it relates to your report?
No.
Nothing further.
Okay, you witness.
Thank you, Ms. Thady, for your time today. I just want to ask a couple of follow-up questions. You just testified that you didn't believe Ms. Temple was speaking as a private citizen, but as a teacher because she identified herself as a teacher in some of the posts. Is that right?
Correct.
Okay, and earlier in your testimony, you referred to the post at page 1. Can you go to that for me? Right, that's one of the places where you're alleging that she identified herself as a teacher?
Correct.
Okay, and then you also testified about the post on page 54. Can you go to that for me? And you're asserting that also indicates that she's speaking as a employee and not a private citizen?
Correct.
Okay, and then you also referenced the quotes on page 63, which you read into the record, is that right?
Correct.
Okay, other than those 3 items, is there anywhere else the administration is alleging that she identified herself as a teacher instead of a private citizen?
There are additional posts in here where she references herself as a teacher, yes.
Okay, can you point those out to us?
On page 2, she says, taken off our spring concert and tags the district.
Okay, so you're saying that is her identifying herself as a teacher?
Correct.
And not speaking as a private citizen?
Correct.
Okay, what else?
Page 4. Are you a teacher in Waukesha? What school? She responded, Higher Elementary.
Okay, she doesn't say whether she's a teacher in Waukesha though, on that one?
Not in that response, no.
Okay, so is that one where you're alleging that she's speaking as an employee?
Yes.
Okay, even though she doesn't say yes or no to the question?
She stated what school she's working at.
Okay, what else?
On page 6, how many students are in your class? She responds 24, but there are about 65 first graders in total.
Okay, and you're alleging that she's presenting herself as a teacher and not a private citizen?
Yes.
Okay.
She's again referencing her employment with saying it was not resolved, we still can't sing Rainbowland, that's on page 16.
Okay.
Here, taking page 29, yes, I teach my students reading comprehension. Definitely written at the appropriate level for first graders.
Okay, and she's identifying herself as a teacher for Waukesha in that one?
All of this together, as she's starting with her first piece, indicated that she's a teacher in Waukesha, and then subsequently all these posts are following all of that.
Okay. Any others?
Did I read 54 about my district won't allow these inclusive books?
Yes, that was one of the originals.
All right, that's all I have.
Okay. Did your investigation reveal that Ms. Temple engaged in Twitter or any other social media media during a time where she was on duty?
Not to my knowledge.
Okay, her initial post, public comment, everything you reviewed was either after working hours, on the weekend, or during spring break. Is that right?
To my knowledge, yes.
You drafted Exhibit 1? Your investigative report?
Yes,
Okay. And did you do that at the conclusion of your investigation?
correct.
Do you remember what date you drafted the document?
I have the date May 10th.
So that would be the date that you wrote and drafted the document?
That would be the date I concluded that I finished it.
Okay, did you write the document contemporaneously as you conducted the investigation, or did you write the summary at the end?
I wrote the summary at the end.
Did anyone assist you in drafting this document?
I worked with our legal counsel.
Okay, outside of legal counsel, which I don't want to know about, did anybody else assist you in drafting?
No,
Were there prior versions of this draft?
I continued to work on it.
Okay, and are any prior versions saved on your computer?
I wouldn't believe so. I think it would just be in the document.
Okay, so you didn't save over it, you just, sorry, you saved over it every time, you don't have different versions?
Not to my knowledge.
Okay, did you take notes during your investigative interviews?
Yes,
Have you maintained those notes in a file or on your computer?
Yes,
You reviewed documents, social media posts, and news interviews and articles as part of your preparation for this report, right?
correct.
Did you take any handwritten or other notes while you reviewed the information?
No,
And your report references 85 voicemails, is that right?
correct.
You listened to and reviewed all 85 of them?
No,
How many did you listen to?
the ones that are on the exhibit.
Okay, so the 12 that are identified on Exhibit 2 are the ones that you listened to.
Correct.
But you tallied up and reported out that there was 85 in total, correct?
Ms. Ettinger gave me that number, correct.
Okay, and Ms. Temple's original post was March 21st, correct?
I'd have to double check.
I think that's the right date.
March 21st,
Okay, and you wrote this report on May 10th, correct?
correct.
So the 85 voicemails that were received and are referenced herein came into the district between March 21st and May 10th, is that fair?
Yes,
And those are voicemails that came to various people in the district, is that right?
correct.
So Principal Schneider testified that he got some of those, right? Sorry, you weren't here for his testimony, let me rephrase. You're aware that Principal Schneider did receive some of those voicemails, right?
Correct.
And those are included in your 85 number, is that right?
Yes,
And then, did Dr. Siebert receive voicemails to your knowledge?
I know his office did.
Okay, and those are also included in the 85, is that right?
Correct.
And did you receive any voicemails?
I believe my office did.
Okay, and those are also included in the total, correct?
Correct.
Did you return any of the calls?
No,
Do you know if anyone else did?
I don't know.
Other than the 85 voicemails that we've just talked about and are identified in this Exhibit 1, are there any other voicemails that came into the district?
Not that I have knowledge of.
Did you take any handwritten or other notes while you listened to the voicemails?
No,
Am I correct in understanding the district also received emails, correct?
correct.
Okay, there's not a number in your report. Do you have an approximation as to how many emails were received?
I do not.
Did you review the emails for this report?
Emails that I received, I reviewed.
How many is that?
I don't know.
Could you give an approximation?
I would be guessing
Okay. You can guess.
over 25.
Okay, so you reviewed 25 emails that you got personally, correct?
Objection misstates testimony, she just said she's guessing.
Sorry, you are approximating that you received about 25 emails.
Yes.
Are those the emails that are referenced in your report, or are you also including the other emails from, that other people received?
What I reviewed, so what was forwarded to me or sent to me would have been what I reviewed to include in my report.
Okay, so some of the emails were forwarded to you, and some you received personally.
Correct.
Okay, and do you have a total for that number?
No.
Those are all saved, I assume?
Yes.
And all of the voicemails, all 85 of the voicemails the district received are saved, is that correct?
No, it's not correct. They just started saving them, I think, as we continue to get them, so I'm not sure the number that are saved.
Okay, so there's 85 voicemails that were received, but you don't know how many have been saved?
Correct.
Other than what you've listed, referenced, and identified in Exhibit 1, is there any other factual information that you relied on to reach your conclusions that the evidence substantiates significant misconduct by Ms. Temple and violation of district policies?
No.
Everything you relied on to reach this conclusion is referenced in Exhibit 1, is that right?
Correct.
And with regard to Exhibit 2, this is a summary of the voicemails that you relied on as you drafted Exhibit 1, is that right?
Correct.
Is it fair to say that these were the only voicemails that you relied on in drafting this and concluding that there was disruption to the district?
Correct.
So these were the most concerning voicemails, and those are the ones that you relied on in reaching your conclusions.
These voicemails right here are the voicemails that I received. I don't know if they're the most concerning voicemails.
Okay, they're the ones you relied on in concluding there was disruption to the district.
That is correct.
If there were other equally or more concerning voicemails that you had access to, you would have included them in your report. Is that fair?
These are the only ones that I had access to.
Sorry, because they weren't, because these are the only ones that are saying.
In the report, and this is the sampling that I have.
Okay, and who put together that sampling?
Sue Ettinger.
So it was her, she picked 12? Know if the district is pressing charges against any of the individuals who left voicemails or sent emails that were concerning?
I'm not aware of anything like that.
And your report says security was increased at higher and the district offices. Can you tell me specifically what you mean by that?
We included police to be present in both locations.
About the police presence at higher, can you tell me the police presence at the district offices?
Can you rephrase your?
Yeah, sure. So I understood from prior testimony from Mr. Schneider that there was some additional police presence at higher, but he was not able to testify, and I didn't ask him, to be fair, what the additional police presence was at the district offices. And so I'm asking if you can explain that, please.
I began my day at higher, so I have that direct information with police at higher.
Okay, so you don't know what additional police presence was provided at the district offices?
Not the number, no.
Who would know that?
Dr. Siebert or Dr. Cook.
Other than increased police presence, do you mean anything else by increased security in this reference in your report?
No.
Okay, and you also state there was substantial disruption to the district. What specifically do you mean beyond the police presence?
The emails and voicemails that we received.
Anything else?
Not that I can think of right now.
And when you say, you assert in here, there's significant time and resources toward managing and responding to circumstances that Ms. Temple created, what specifically do you mean in terms of how much time and by whom?
I couldn't guess how much time. I was very involved. Dr. Siebert was very involved. Our subsequent assistants were Mr. Schneider.
Anything else that you can think of? I guess I'm asking specifically, what did you mean by significant time and resources?
We had to shift our time to focusing on this.
You and Dr. Siebert and Principal Schneider.
Yes, and our clerical support.
And how many people?
Maybe one per, so three
3 clerical.
additional.
Do you know if any classes were canceled as a result of Ms. Temple's actions?
No, not to my knowledge.
Were any schools closed?
Not to my knowledge.
Other than this investigation, have you ever conducted an investigation into a teacher or staff's personal off-duty social media use?
I believe so.
Are you aware of any other district employees posting about Rainbowland or Ms. Temple?
Not to my knowledge.
Is it the administration's position that if Ms. Temple had followed the chain of command and then made her posts about Rainbowland, she would have been in compliance with page 7 of the handbook?
Objection calls for a hypothetical.
We'll sustain the objection. Rephrase.
Okay, can you, let's turn to the page 7 of the handbook. Actually, I'm sorry. Let's go to your report. So on page 4 of your report, you say Ms. Temple did not follow the chain of command to express her concerns over the district's decision to not include Rainbowland in the first grade concert. Instead, she repeatedly posted her opinion on the matter to Twitter and granted interviews. I'm just trying to understand what she needed to do according to the administration to be in compliance with this policy. If she had followed the chain of command instead of posting, or before she posted on Twitter, would she have been in compliance?
Same objection. Calls for hypothetical.
I'm gonna allow her to answer the question.
So can you repeat the question?
Sure. If Ms. Temple had gone to Principal Siebert and discussed her post prior to posting it, would she have been in compliance with page 7 of the handbook?
She would have been in compliance with following the chain of command. Is that what you're asking?
Correct.
If she followed the chain of command, then yes, she would be in compliance with following the chain of command.
Right. All right.
And for the record, that was Principal Schneider, not
I'm
Dr.
sorry.
Siebert, so,
Did I say Dr. Siebert?
yes.
I meant Principal Schneider. I'm assuming your answer is the same.
Correct.
All right. Is it the administration's position that Ms. Temple would have needed to go through all the steps outlined in Board Policy 3179 before she was permitted to post about Rainbowland?
Objection, foundation, to the extent she doesn't need to interpret board policies.
Well, I think we're gonna allow her to answer the question, although I think we kind of asked and answered the same question, but.
It's a separate policy, and she's testifying about why Ms. Temple violated the policy, so I think it's appropriate to ask her.
Okay, you can rephrase the question, go ahead.
Okay, there's a list of steps that need to be taken pursuant to Board Policy 3179, is that right?
Correct.
Okay, and your report concludes that she did not follow those steps, but instead posted about Rainbowland on Twitter first, right?
That's correct.
Okay, and my question is it the administration's position that she needed to go through all the steps on 3179 before she was allowed to make a social media post?
A general social media post, I'm saying that she did not go through the chain of command about being upset about a song decision
Right, and if she had, then she would have been in compliance with these policies.
with this specific policy.
Okay. And I just want to clarify, it's the administration's position that Ms. Temple violated 3214, not because she spoke out about a specific student, but because she spoke out about her students as a group generally. Is that right?
3213 I have, is that correct?
3213, yep.
And then what was your question?
Yeah, so the district is not alleging that she disclosed or shared any personally identifiable information about any of her particular students, but rather spoke about them as a group. Is that right?
That's correct.
I don't have anything else for this witness.
Any redirect?
Yes, thank you. Ms. Sadie, you would agree that in this entire controversy, Ms. Temple is speaking on issues related to her employment with the district, right?
Correct.
And in fact, this entire issue arose out of events that occurred in the course and scope of her employment, right?
Correct.
And all of the tweets you testified are related to her identifying herself as a teacher, right?
Correct.
And there's a lot of posts to review on this issue, correct?
Correct.
And you didn't testify to all the times that she identified herself as a teacher and connected herself to the district in the written news articles, right?
Correct.
There's other times in those articles, correct?
Yes.
And you also did not testify to all the times she identified herself as a teacher in the media live interviews, correct?
Correct.
Are there other times in those interviews, the live interviews?
Yes.
Okay. You didn't specifically look into the time that Ms. Temple posted the tweets, is that right?
The first one, but after that, correct.
In terms of whether she was using district technology, or whether she was on site, or whether she was on her own time on off-duty conduct, you didn't specifically look into that or ask her about that, did you?
No, I didn't ask her about that.
Okay. In the course of your investigation interviews, some of the witnesses told you that they received emails of concern, even if you didn't specifically review them, correct?
Correct.
And you relied on their testimony about those concerning emails in forming your report, correct?
Correct.
You also understand that from your investigation interviews that others received concerning voicemails, is that right?
Yes.
Okay. And you relied upon their testimony about those concerning voicemails in forming the basis of your report, right?
Right.
So even if you didn't personally listen to the voicemails, you were relying on their testimony, correct?
Correct.
Okay. If the district is not pressing charges related to the voicemails, are they still of concern to the district?
Yes.
In drafting your report, you were relying on Principal Schneider's testimony about the disruption caused on the building level to Higher Elementary, is that right?
Correct.
Okay. That's all I have, thank you.
Sorry, just a couple more. You just testified that you were relying on people telling you about the voicemails and emails they received.
Yes.
Who were those people?
Mr. Schneider was one, and he told me who he would get them from. Sue Ettinger we had everyone forward them to Sue, so then she was the keeper.
Okay, anyone else whose testimony you relied on?
Not that I can think of, no.
I don't have anything else.
Nothing further.
Okay, Ms. Thede, you are excused. Thank you.
Thank you.
At this time, I'm noting the time, that's approximately 2 p.m., and I'm just wondering if any of the parties would like to take a brief recess. I will tell you, I would like to get a copy of the exhibits to the board. I don't believe we have that, so I'd like to take a couple minutes to make sure that we can produce those.
Great.
If we were to recess for till 2:10, is that acceptable?
Yes.
Okay, and then while we do that, I would just ask that at all times we refrain from any discussion of the testimony and exhibits that we've witnessed this evening. Thank you.
my garden plus, 50 hours of labor so far. I have like this one thing. Pretty much. You might want to keep harder, not longer.
You grass that might be real bad, and then the dryness, I guess it is raining.
It is.
Everything.
When you get about $10 worth of vegetables out,
Takes it all
Was I doing this more for therapy or yeah.
like in the spring.
Well, I just figure I'm learning creations,
there's really nothing else in the case.
All the onion families and the mints. That's what I'm learning.
Dr. Seaver is coming, so I'm just gonna wait till he gets here.
He's here. He's ready.
Okay, at this time, we are going to reconvene the meeting. We'll note that the time is 2:14, and we'll note that the administration's witness, Dr. Seaver, has arrived. Dr. Seaver, you may be seated. What I'd like to do is to swear you in before we get started. Do you solemnly swear the testimony you're about to give in this matter is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God? And I'd ask that you try to speak in the microphone as much as possible, and I'd ask that you state your full name and spell your last name.
Sure. My name is James Siebert. The last name is spelled S-E-B-E-R-T. I'm the superintendent of schools for the school district of Waukesha.
And you are the witness of the administration.
Before I get started, one matter of housekeeping. I would like to move into evidence this flash drive that I had Sharon Beatty testify about. It's a copy of the administrative videos and the underlying voicemails referenced in Exhibit 1 and Exhibit 2. So I'd like to move that into evidence now.
To the extent it would implicate any of the prior discussions of briefing, we'll just recircle objections, understanding they've been overruled and we'll preserve them for the future.
So noted. So we'll move that in. Do we ever call that Exhibit 1A?
Yes, that's
Okay, so 1A will be the audio files related to that. We'll note the objection and overrule as related to the notice.
Good afternoon, Dr. Siebert. What is your position with the district?
I'm the superintendent of schools.
And what are your responsibilities as superintendent of the district?
To implement board policy and oversee all of our schools.
How did you become aware of the situation involving Melissa Temple, which is the subject of the hearing today?
Right. I became aware of it later in the day on Wednesday, March 23rd.
Okay, and how did you become aware?
Our assistant superintendent of teaching and learning, Jody Landish, gave me a phone call in regards to it. That day we had been, several board members, our former deputy superintendent and I had been in Madison advocating for the budget at the Capitol. And so it was not until later in the day that she gave me the phone.
And what did she tell you in that phone call?
She told me that Mr. Schneider, the principal at Higher, had reached out to Melissa Yao, who is the director of elementary education, which is under the teaching and learning department, to use her as a thought partner in regards to a particular song that may be included in the Higher first grade concert.
And did she explain to you what the decision was?
Yes, she said that the two of them together decided that that song may not be appropriate for first graders, and they asked the music teacher to select a different song.
Okay. How did you first become aware of social media postings made by Ms. Temple?
I had had them shared with me from multiple different stakeholders, and earlier in the day, again, I was driving and/or at the Capitol talking with legislators, became aware of emails that had showed some of the posts.
Okay, so when you say you had them shared with you, you weren't requesting them to be shared, people were sending them to you, is that right?
Correct.
Okay. What were the communications from various stakeholders? What were they saying?
Basically asking if it was true, what was the situation, what's going on with this particular song and/or school concert.
Okay. And you testified this was on March 22nd, correct? Or
Yes, I apologize. I believe it was Wednesday, March 22nd. If I said 23rd, that's Thursday.
Okay. And what did you do next after you began to receive these messages?
So again, I didn't learn about it till later in the day on Wednesday, so read the emails that I had received, and then the following day, which was Thursday the 23rd, right away in the morning, reached out over the phone to both Mr. Schneider at Hire and Mrs. Yao at the Lindholm building at that time.
Okay. And so you said you talked to Mr. Schneider, is that right?
Yes.
Okay. What did Mr. Schneider tell you?
Explained to me what Ms. Landish had explained, in that the music teacher had asked him about this particular song. He talked to Mrs. Yao. They felt that a different song could be perhaps better for 6 and 7-year-olds in first grade, and the music teacher suggested the song Rainbow Connection by Jim Henson or Kermit the Frog as an alternative.
Okay, so by the time Mr. Schneider spoke with you, he had already approved Rainbow Connection, is that right?
Correct.
Did he explain to you that he had banned Rainbow Connection and then unbanned it?
No, he said he had been getting some emails and some concerns as well, so he decided to think about it over the night on Wednesday and then approved it with the music teacher on Thursday morning.
Okay. Did you speak with anyone else at that time about this issue?
Mrs. Yao, who he had also used as the thought partner the day prior.
And what did she explain to you?
The exact same thing that Mr. Schneider and Ms. Landish had told me.
Okay. Did you speak with anybody else at that time?
No.
Did you speak with Ms. Thede?
Eventually I did speak with Mrs. Thede, yes.
Okay. And what did you say to her?
I asked her to start to look into this situation because we continued to get emails and phone calls in regards to the situation, and I wanted her to do an investigation into the matter.
Did Ms. Temple reach out to you directly about her concerns?
No.
Did you ever speak with Ms. Temple about her concerns?
No.
I understand the music teacher, Mr. Ziegler, was involved in the song choice, is that right?
Yes.
Okay. Did Mr. Ziegler ever reach out to you about his concerns?